We need to talk about the Pullman Bypass. I've been seeing a lot of discussion online going back and forth and arguing about some proposed changes to Sand Road and Kirkendahl Road south of town. This is not meant to be corrective. This isn't me like scolding people or anything. In fact, a lot of the discussion is from people I really respect. But if we're not operating off of a common set of facts, it's really hard to have a rational discussion about this. As most of you know, I've been involved with a number of transportation-related projects in the area as a subcontractor of an engineering firm. That's not what's happening here. This is just me. No one's paying me to say this, and I do not represent any of my previous employers or anybody at the city or the county. But there definitely seems to be some misunderstanding on this issue, so let me see if I can clarify some things. First of all, none of the currently discussed options are technically a bypass. We shouldn't even be using that word. This is not about bypassing Pullman or trying to divert traffic away from Pullman. This is about truck routes, and there's a pretty big difference. A bypass is when you build a road to go around usually a city center and you intentionally don't put new commercialization or residential neighborhoods alongside. You keep it straight, you minimize intersections, you discourage development, and prioritize the traffic on that road to pull traffic away from somewhere else. That's a bypass. What we're actually talking about now is truck routes. We currently have 2 state highways passing through our downtown, and both of them are designated as the official truck route for through traffic, which means extra wear and tear on the roads, and it means a less pleasant environment for pedestrians and anybody trying to do business or have fun. So yeah, it would be great if we could get truck traffic out of downtown. But nowhere in the RTPO report or with the city of Pullman or with Whitman County or with WashDOT, nowhere does it say that we're working on a bypass. This is just about truck traffic. Because we already have trucks, like the trucks are there. Is there just a more efficient way we can get them around town? The second big misunderstanding is that these truck route options are not exclusive plans that are meant to replace everything else. It's more of a big picture vision of a lot of smaller plans that together could lead to a desired outcome. It is not meant to be the final word, and it is not a silver bullet. The RTPO report was always about practical, affordable solutions. The backstory here is that it's pretty common for overlapping government entities to not really have good communication when it comes to regional traffic planning. The city of Pullman has a limited budget and really can only do things within the city limits. Whitman County has a much larger area, but it can't really do anything related to Pullman traffic unless it collaborates with the city of Pullman. Meanwhile, it's ultimately the Washington State Department of Transportation that is in charge of all this and has to sign off on every plan. So a solution we have here in Washington is something called Regional Transportation Planning Organizations. These are minimally staffed, basically on paper only organizations that exist to be the neutral third party to talk about planning with these overlapping entities. Because let's just say that the county had one idea of how to handle a project and a city had something else, who's going to break that tie? You need to have some sort of third party entity to kind of look at the big picture. That's what an RTPO is for. So the Washington State Department of Transportation gave a grant to the Palouse RTPO to study the truck traffic in downtown Pullman. The results of that is the Whitman County Freight Study. This is just a study. It's just math and maps and recommendations. There's no funding behind it, and there's no green light to actually make anything happen. The fact of the matter is that WashDOT, the state legislature, even a federal grant would never approve a project that didn't have this kind of due diligence done first. So the RTPO report is a very necessary step in whatever it is we end up deciding to do. But this study was never about doing a major bypass. In fact, in the team meetings that I was a part of, anytime someone accidentally said the word bypass, we'd be told, no, hold on, we can't say that word. Not a bypass, we're just doing trucks. WashDOT is looking for simple, easy solutions. For example, at a minimum, changing some signs around. At a maximum, updating some intersections and maybe a widening of a lane here or there. The third misconception, and this is maybe the most discouraging one of all, this legendary northern bypass that keeps getting passed around isn't going to happen anytime soon. As part of the RTPO report, I got to see all of the analysis and all the routes that were analyzed. Trust me, we looked at the northern bypass as well as 100 other possible routes, even routes that are physically impossible. There is one route possibility that literally cuts directly through the building that I'm in right now. So yeah, everything is on the table. This mythical northern bypass on the low end is estimated to cost somewhere around $75 million. The entire downtown project just last year was $12 million. And the town more or less freaked out about it for a year and a half. The city of Pullman's total annual budget is $90 million. And that's including salaries for fire, for police, for parks and rec, public safety. Would you be excited about spending basically the city's entire annual budget on one road? The long and the short of it is, if we're ever gonna see a northern bypass around Pullman, it's gonna require some federal support. That doesn't mean it's impossible. Like, it absolutely could happen. But talk to your congressman, call up Baumgardner or, Patty Murray. It's a very different lift than just diverting truck traffic. And something we should be really clear about is that the RTPO report is not meant to preclude any of these other bigger projects. It could still totally happen. It probably will happen in some form sometime in the future, but not in time for any of us to really benefit from it in the near term. As I was prepping for this video, I did a little bit of research and found this old Daily Evergreen article from 1987. And in it, they interview several people on the Moscow-Pullman Road corridor who were expressing their disappointment with the thought of the road being upgraded from 2 lanes to 4. That upgrade didn't happen until the 2000s, like 20, 30 years later. But I just love some of the spice that comes out of these residents' language as they talk about the possibility of the road in front of them changing in some way. Sig Jorstad said, "We don't come to town and tell the city people what to do with their property." Another resident said, "I don't like it. I live here. I moved to the country to be peaceful." Look, I get it, and I'm in a very much a similar situation. But the fact of the matter is, every road in our town is gonna end up in the long term with more traffic and not less. If you live on Kirkendahl Road, I'm sorry, you are on a state highway. At some point, it's going to get more traffic. I don't think it's gonna look like the Moscow-Pullman Highway anytime soon, but like over time, traffic is gonna increase. It's just part of what happens. But imagine for a moment that you had a time machine and you could go back in time and talk to Sig Jorstad about upgrading the Moscow-Pullman Highway from 2 lanes to 4. Do you really think that you would tell him that it's a good idea to oppose this? Like, are any of us wishing that the Moscow-Pullman Highway was still the most dangerous road in Eastern Washington, with those hairpin turns and people constantly trying to pass each other on the straightaways? Our community is going to grow and evolve over time. We get it, and these growing pains are painful. But it's important that we all focus on the big picture of what our community needs to be sustainable. I don't know if this RTPO plan is going to get adopted by the county. I don't know if it's going to be adopted by the city. And I certainly don't know if any of this is actually going to get funded. It's entirely possible that this whole thing will just sit to the side. But nothing about this plan is going to preclude any of the long-term larger projects that many people still want. If anything, the more we bog down on the simple low-hanging fruit, the less chance it is we're going to have politicians supporting the bigger projects in the future. So I hope this helps. I hope this clarifies. Let me know in the comments if you have any follow-up questions. I'll do my best to answer them. Drive safely, and thanks for watching.